Angela Merkel's government says that in recent months they have been spending just as much energy on how to handle a Brexit flop as preparing for a negotiated solution. The Federation of German Industry (BDI) warned German firms on Thursday that it would be naive not to be ready for a very hard exit. This, the BDI said, is because Theresa May's government lacks a clear strategy on how to exit the European Union following last year's referendum. BDI Managing Director Joachim Lang said after 4 rounds of negotiations, German industry looks with concern at the progress of the Brexit negotiations. Germany's Angela Merkel is preparing a contingency plan in case Brexit fails. The British government is lacking a clear concept despite talking a lot. German companies with a presence in Britain and Northern Ireland must now make provisions for the serious case of a very hard exit. Anything else would be naive. Britain is Germany's 3rd most important single export destination and its 5th biggest overall trading partner. The UK is the 2nd biggest export market for German car manufacturers with a value of nearly €29 billion, pounds 26 billion. German car makers and suppliers also employ roughly 9,000 people at 95 production sites in Britain. BDI has set up a task force including major companies to tackle the issue. Brexit Minister David Davis is expected back in Brussels on Monday for a 5th round of talks, but as infighting consumes the UK government, Germany is not the only member state to have stepped up quiet preparations for a possible collapse of Brexit talks. Most member states are preparing what to do if Britain crashes out of the EU without a deal 18 months from now. Mrs. May's EU counterparts still see the no-deal scenario she threatened them with as most unlikely, as they think it would hurt Britain much more than the continent. But after her faltering party conference this week, and ahead of important meetings in Brussels over the next fortnight, diplomats are shoring up plans for a legal limbo in March 2019 and urging businesses to do the same. Michel Barnier, the European Union negotiator, says his aim is an orderly exit. But he repeatedly cautions that he has a mandate from EU leaders to help prepare for failure and regularly tells businesses to be sure to plan for the worst. Friday, September 22, 2017, British Prime Minister Theresa May gestures as she delivers her speech in Florence. He said in July, "We want to be ready for all eventualities, including no deal." For many, talk of a breakdown in talks remains part of the bluff and counter-bluff of negotiations. Mrs. May's problems inside her own government indicate to many across the Channel that the country is so divided it may be unable to reach a deal. Brexit Minister David Davis is expected back in Brussels on Monday for a 5th round of negotiations with Mr. Barnier. But expectations among EU officials are low to nil for a breakthrough on key divorce issues. Jet2 officials said with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, the negotiations would be easier aside from uncertainty over how a new EU border with Ireland will work and differences over rights for expatriates after Brexit, a standoff over tens of billions of euros that Brussels argues Britain will owe on departure seems far from resolution. Describing as unbelievable arrogance British offers to pay just €20 billion, £17.96 billion of a Brexit bill which the EU estimates at perhaps €60 billion. A senior diplomat from a country Britain generally views as an ally in EU affairs said Mrs. May would have to face down hardliners who reject such payments. Few of Britain's negotiating partners see any benefit in a change of prime minister now. That would cost more time that neither side has, since the chances of London or Brussels agreeing to extend the Brexit deadline seem limited. However, an EU diplomat said with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, the negotiations would be easier. We could save ourselves all this analyzing, the diplomat said, as he'd just drive the talks straight off the cliff.